when it comes to seagrass, it's not really very much talked about. Why is it very significant to raise awareness on this?
Well, thank you for that wonderful question. Seagrass is a very important ecosystem in the marine environment. In fact, I will say it is the most important ecosystem in the marine environment. Thanks to the ecosystem services it is providing in the marine environment. So, and yet, it doesn't get the recognition or it doesn't get the attention which it deserves compared to the sister ecosystem in the marine environment. Because basically in the marine environment, the major ecosystems there, you have the seagrass, the mangrove, and the coral reef. These are the predominant major ecosystems there. So, but these two get more attention than the seagrasses. So the seagrasses, basically they are always found in the shallow regions. Okay. Meaning, when you go into the sea at the low tide, the water will just be at a 1 meter level or so. This is why this is the place where they are usually found. So they play a very important ecosystem services. One among them, they provide a feeding ground for the fish. Oh. You see the fish, Gambia here, mainly people depend on the fish as their major supply of protein. The protein is used for the maintenance and the, building of our wounds, our cells and tissues. So our major supplies come from the fish. So the fish, they depend entirely on seagrasses. They depend mainly on seagrasses for their feeding, for their roosting, for their spawning. What I mean by spawning, for their breeding. They uses the seagrass ecosystem for their breeding. So these seagrasses, it play a very important role for the fisheries services. So again, the seagrasses also serve as the feeding ground of the marine turtle. Marine turtles are endangered species, meaning they are species that is under a CITES regulation. So these species, they feed about 60% of their daily consumption. They depend on seagrasses, the turtles. So another importance reason why seagrass should get our attention is because they serve as the buffer in the marine ecosystem. What you might mean by that is that they serve as a filter. They serve as a filter of the marine system. Like if nutrients are brought to the sea, so to maintain the balance of these nutrients, the seagrass serve as a filter. It regulates it so that the acidity and the alkalosis of the sea will be at a par. It will not exceed and it will also not be below. Okay, another important why it needs our attention or why it is very important is because it also serves as a climate regulator. Okay, seagrass being a flowering plant, it produces it absorbs the carbon dioxide from the environment, okay, in order to manufacture its own food through the process called the photosynthesis. But it also perform another climatic function, which is the carbon sequestration. That is to absorb the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, store it into its cells and tissues, and also compress it down so that to reduce the level of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gases that contribute to the global warming and eventually to the climate change. So it absorbs this carbon from the atmosphere in order to reduce the climate change. In fact, 1 hectare of seagrass ecosystem can sequester, meaning can store a carbon 35 times more than that of the terrestrial forest. So that indicates that seagrass is a very, very important ecosystem. But unfortunately, it doesn't get much attention. So this is why this Nyamo Tanko and Resiliency project, we want to change that narrative in the Gambia and the sub-region as a whole. So and then to enlighten people about some of the importance of the seagrasses, and to also another importance of seagrass, it alleviates poverty. It's because people depend on the seagrass products like the fish in order to increase their to be as their source of earning or source of income. So it's like if without the seagrasses meadow, people's income, especially the fishing community or the coastal community, their life and livelihoods will be affected kind of. Okay, so there are many other reasons, but because of different time factors, we cannot overemphasize that.
I'm learning today.